It's Brad and John, otherwise known as Frank and Transparent. We're a group of guys who are all about educating folks on the cryptocurrency world. There's a lot of folks out in the world that still don't understand anything about cryptocurrency. Numbers say something like only 12% of people really understand what in the heck is going on. But after 13 years, Bitcoins began back in 2009. This whole revolution began 13 years ago. We're still in the very first inning of this entire new financial world, a whole new way of doing business, whole new way of investing, a whole new way of looking at the financial world. So what we want to do is keep our weekly videos down to 21 minutes because we want to honor 21 million Bitcoin that are all going to be produced over the next 100 years. So that's right, 21-minute videos that Brad and I are going to be talking about. And today we're talking about, is crypto dead? And the reason why is if you haven't been looking at the crypto markets here in January 2022, Bitcoin is down almost 50%. Ethereum, the other largest the second largest cryptocurrency in the world, is down over 50% just in the last 45 days. So most of the markets, most of places like CNBC and the big publications are saying cryptocurrency is dead, get out, stay away, and it's being fear driven. So we want to talk about that today. So Transparency over there is going to give us some information. I'm going to ask him frank questions, and we're going to get down to the bottom line because there's a lot of correlations in the market that we can use to help educate you on what the heck is going on. So, Brad, what are your thoughts about what's happening here in January this year?
It's pretty interesting because what typically happens is there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And when people are really excited, there's ups. And when people are fearful, there's downs. And right now in the world, and even if you watch this a couple years from now, you're probably still going to be seeing that it might be going down or up, but it's a really volatile market. And that's what makes it exciting. But at the same time, whenever it does crash, like what just happened recently, is that everyone gets a lot of fear in them, and they think that it's just going to go to zero, and that the world is ending. And it's just a really volatile asset. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you about this.
But it's interesting. So it's a volatile asset. That's what a lot of the news and a lot of the mainstream news is saying. Yesterday I was listening to, I forgot who it was, a Robert Kiyosaki, and he had some big name guests on talking about cryptocurrency and stay away. It's going to go to zero. But you have to look at a lot of technology, whether it's biotechnology or just the whole internet world of technology out there. There's a lot of things going on in those worlds where there's fear driven, where companies are not making profits, yet people are driving up their share price 1, 2, 10x and beyond. A lot of similarities in that type of world to the cryptocurrency world. So, having seen many corrections in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the like over the last, 10 years, they go down, they go up a lot and they come down a lot. So today we're still looking at 36,000 for Bitcoin and about 2,600, 2,400 for Ethereum. I mean, is it a good time to buy, or is it a good time to hit the eject button?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think the most important thing is if you have access to charting software, or even just Google it, where if you look at the past decade of Bitcoin, regardless of where it is at any given day, just generally it trends up. And that's because of the 21 million fixed supply that there will ever be. And so over time, more and more people are gonna start to appreciate what Bitcoin has to offer. More governments, more funds, more just everyone is gonna get more excited at the promise of Bitcoin. And so the price just continually goes up. It's super volatile on any given day, but over the long run, it trends up. And so we really got to just zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And if you're trying to trade this stuff, it's incredibly tricky because there's a lot of different macro reasons why the price could go up or down, like depending on what the Fed says, or even what some of the technical analysis will say. So there's a lot of different reasons why it is volatile. But just over time, it just continually goes up. And so anybody that thinks that crypto is dead anytime it crashes. I think they're just doing it in reverse. You really got to think about, like, it might be a good time to start buying more when it goes down.
So looking back 30,000 foot, stepping back and looking at it. So just this month, we've had things like, El Salvador is making, they're doing a lot of new work where the IMF said they want to punish El Salvador. They want to have them stop. Yet government after government, Russia, news coming out of Russia, making it a currency, there's a whole bunch of governments around the world. So if people are fearful that crypto is going to die or is crypto dead, yet every week you turn on the news and you look at one government after another is implementing it, using it, going to start putting into their economy. I mean, we have to kind of watch what governments are doing, right? People may hear that governments think it's poo-poo, but I think it's kind of just the reverse, right?
For sure. That's one thing that I've learned is always look at people's actions and not, what they publicly are showing, because a lot of people do something behind the scenes, but then say something publicly. And you've seen this a lot in the crypto world where people will, say a certain thing, trying to manipulate the price down or up, and then they're secretly doing the opposite of that. And so it's a really tricky scenario. But I think the big thing here is that when we think about free markets and what the promise has for that, if you look at the stock market, so if we put our money in the stock market, there's a set trading period. It's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or there's after hours and all that kind of stuff, but it's closed on overnight, it's closed on the weekends, it's closed on holidays. There's circuit breakers, so if something goes too volatile, they just stop the trading. And so that's really not free market. And when you look at Bitcoin, it's 24/7. There's no circuit breakers. You can just do whatever you need. But when it comes to the free market, like when there's no circuit breakers, yes, it's going to be more volatile, because if something crashes, everyone's going to want to start selling or buying, and it's just a lot more volatile in that regard.
So volatility, this week I was looking at some of the news publications going out there, and people like Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, right, and the ex CEO of Morgan Stanley, Blankenship, I believe it is. Both of them are saying, "Hey, man, these cryptos right now, particularly Bitcoin and Ethereum, are down 50% in a bull market." These guys came out publicly and saying it's time to get into this game, that it's still a very early inning of this ball game, and it's better to buy it at 50% off than to buy it at high prices. So it's not just governments are getting in, one government after another. It's the Mark Cubans of the world, the billionaires of the world, who are publicly jumping on board this train. And I'm sure on a day like today or a week like this week, when it's come down in price, the old adage that Warren Buffett always said, do you want to go pay $100 for a polo shirt at Nordstrom, or wait for the yearly half off sale where you pay $50 for the same thing? So to me, it's like Bitcoin's been around for 13 years. It's volatile. The price is down 50%. Yeah, I want to. You earlier said it's a good time to start dipping into it. It's probably a good time to just put a little bit of a larger position right now, just to get in at this bottom price, or at this lower price, excuse me.
For sure. Yeah. And it really seems like it's the human nature to want to buy when something's going up. And it's almost counterintuitive to buy when it's going down. But it's on sale. If you think about from that respect, is whenever it crashes, as there's only a few things that could truly kill Bitcoin and crypto, and that stuff isn't happening. There's the obvious ones where maybe the encryption is broken through a quantum computer, or these very super hypothetical scenarios. Outside of that, when the price comes down, it's just because people are being irrational. And another I think it was like the Rothschild, or one of those finance guys in the past, said that the money is made when there's blood in the streets. And so when everyone is selling, yes, it human nature, we want to join the crowd and be like, okay, we're getting out just like everyone else. But if you go the opposite direction and sell when it's going up, and or just never sell, actually, depending on your time horizon. But sell when it goes up and buy when it comes down. It's really a winning formula that's worked for me. It's worked for many funds. It works for a lot of people that can remove themselves from the emotions of the volatility.
Well, that reminds me of in Wall Street and trading stocks, you ride the wall of worry, and you deal with the valley of hope, right? So right now we're kind of like in the valley of hope of cryptocurrency, where people think, oh, it's going to go down, down, down. You can look at the charts; it is in a downward trend right now. So you might not want to put all of your money into crypto at this point, but it's certainly a good time to put some money in to cryptocurrency at this half off sale. But since you are the man of transparency, earlier you said the things that might take cryptocurrency down to zero, or some of those things that could happen are just not happening.
Mhm.
Can I be frank with you and ask you what those things might be?
Yeah, so that's there's always ways that something could uh, get demolished. And one of the biggest things that they've said in the past is the encryption right now is strong enough where the average data center or whatever is just not strong enough to break the encryption. So everything is good. But once you start factoring in some new technologies that could be coming up in the future, like quantum computing, that is one of the biggest risks long term. But this is just my opinion, but I feel like by the time that quantum computing is at a level where it can actually break some encryption, there's going to be a lot of cryptographers out there working on the reverse, where there will be encryption that is either created by a quantum computer or something where it just continually gets stronger. And at that time, I think the only risk at that point would be having the enough miners use that new software where that new encryption would still be able to handle anything that's thrown at it. So there's uh, rational fears, but that's so down the road at this point, where quantum computers need to be nearly at absolute zero. They can barely do simple things. So it's really down the road. So it's something not to be too concerned about. The other side of it would be really, for me personally, the only fear that I have is some government officials completely misunderstanding Bitcoin and crypto and doing some really harmful regulation. But I think that there's enough people in the government that are Bitcoiners and understand the promise of crypto that shouldn't happen. But that is a possibility. But let's just hope that rational minds prevail.
So yeah, that's clearly anytime government gets involved, which is kind of the antithesis of the whole crypto world anyway, right? Anti-government, let it be free. But I mean, I don't know what the crypto market is now today. Isn't it like 2 trillion or some big astronomical number, right?
It's a lot, yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand how large this cryptocurrency market has become over the last 10 12 years. So when you think of is crypto dead, clearly the trend over the last 13 years, when no one knew anything about Bitcoin, back then there was only Bitcoin and maybe just a handful of cryptocurrencies, right?
Hmm.
Today there's what, just like the mutual fund industry, there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
So if there's thousands of mutual funds out there buying and selling and holding thousands of stocks in companies, and now today there's thousands of cryptocurrencies, and now there's crypto IRAs, there's all sorts of crypto, people doing managed services in the crypto world. So does this kind of go against, that type of theory, that kind of philosophy that cryptocurrency is dead? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever if people are jumping on the fear bandwagon about crypto dying. Um, I mean, we have to get really strong in our message to people, particularly our audience here, who has never gotten into cryptocurrency, they've never bought anything. They're still going, "Oh my God, it's crash, crash, crash." I mean, we have to drive this message home. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's it's pretty interesting because the longer that you're in this whole volatile asset, it it kind of makes you not as sensitive, like it desensitizes you to the swings, where you really just got to think about what the potential is in the future. And where, like you said earlier, we're in the first inning of all this stuff. Most people don't have a wallet yet. They don't understand the promise of these microtransactions that will happen on websites. They don't understand NFTs and how that's going to change pretty much every industry. There's so much that is in its infancy that it's really easy to slip into the fear. But when we really zoom out and look at all of the promise that this technology brings, yes, individual cryptos may go to zero or whatever. But when you look at Bitcoin and some of the really, really popular altcoins, there's a ton of tailwinds behind them that as long as it's a good project, it's going to last and it will survive these things. I think a lot of people learned from the 2017 crash that they need to manage their liquidity and they need to make sure that they're able to weather these storms. But from the most part, the good projects will last no matter what happens with the price.
Well, I know we've talked about this in last videos, the videos we've done in the past where, back in the 90s, people didn't understand the internet, but they were buying internet stocks.
Yeah.
Today, people don't understand blockchain, but they're buying cryptocurrencies. So internet stocks, oh my God, hundreds, if not more, went to zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
if people who understood the internet they weren't in fear of that because they realized that locomotive, that train was on the tracks and it was barreling forward in the world. And look at where the internet is today. So all this cryptocurrency is based on the blockchain. So if people need to really understand the blockchain, which is going to be another video we're going to do here in the next couple of weeks, so that people understand that, yeah, you're going to go to zero on a bunch of these cryptocurrencies, but take the fear out of it because the blockchain is a technology that's going to keep driving this thing forward, right?
For sure. And it's really how the venture capitalists have a portfolio mindset where they understand that it could even be they could invest in 20 companies and 19 of them could fail, but that one ultimately becomes a unicorn or something. So if you take it from that perspective, and not every crypto asset that is purchased is going to be a home run, but some of them will be. And especially depending on when you get in and if you're buying when the price is dropping, there's so much upside potential to this that, it's kind of bad to say, but the worst it can do is go to zero. But the best it could do is, just take off for the next 20, 30 years. So, you really got to weigh the upside and downside on a lot of the portfolio concept.
Well, one of the things for whether you're a novice at cryptocurrency, for you, if you're listening for the first time, you want to understand about cryptocurrencies. One thing that's really important, we're not going to give you individual cryptos to go out and buy because that's not the business we're in. We want to educate you about what's happening with this whole sector. So take this one piece of just general advice together for you, which is if you're going to get into crypto, Brad was just saying, get a little bit because 19 of the 20 are going to go to zero. One's going to do amazing. So we call it position sizing and asset allocation. So if you have, let's say it's $2,000 that you want to put into cryptocurrency, yeah, go out and buy 10 or maybe even 20, put $100 into each one, knowing that $1,900 of your portfolio is going to go down to zero, but that one is probably going to go up to, whatever, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So you're actually going to win. So it's all part of a good asset allocation strategy, and then making sure your position sizes of cryptocurrencies are spread out. So you're not putting all your eggs in the one basket, right?
For sure. And one thing above and beyond that is just understanding that Bitcoin is kind of its own beast, and that's why altcoins is anything but Bitcoin. And so the way that I structure how we hold our assets and how we just pursue the crypto investment world is that Bitcoin, from my perspective, is more like a savings account, and all of the altcoins are more like investments. And so when you have Bitcoin as a savings account, if you take profits in altcoins and move them over to Bitcoin, it's just a little bit better of a an approach than thinking that Bitcoin is just this this investment that is always just going to go up. But if you just continually, and it's called stacking sats from Satoshi, the smallest Bitcoin denominator is a Satoshi. And so when you stack sats, just like people stack silver and stack gold, when you stack sats, it's just the goal to over time get as much Bitcoin as possible, and you're going to get the biggest gains and the biggest loses from these altcoins. And that's the way that I approach it, and it's worked out pretty well for me.
Well, folks, that's what we got time for today. I mean, is crypto dead? We don't think so. I mean, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. But based on history, based on what's going on with governments, based on, take the wide angle zoom of what's happening when the cryptocurrency markets, this is a good time to probably get into crypto and not let fear override your actions. So, Brad, in honor of 21 minutes and 21 million Bitcoin, I want to say thanks for your thoughts today on this very, very important topic as we enter the new year. I know you're very transparent about it. I'm frank about it, but you're Brad. I'm John. Folks, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next time. Brad?
Yes. Just remember to dollar cost average and enjoy the ride. It's a bumpy one, but it's fun.
Hodl, baby.
Yeah.
See you next time.